Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's Tuesday evening. It is 9 o'clock. Time for a Tuesday night blethering live stream. But first, as always, a little music. Enjoy.
We are all the heirs to Scotland as a nation proudly stand. We will march beneath her banners to protect our ancient land. In the glens and cities, there on every street are the living heroes no army will defeat. Let a flag mean freedom and not a battle drum. To the world we bid a welcome in 1,000 different ways. We will toast to long lost friendships as we build our better days. In the glens and cities, there on every street are the living heroes no army will defeat. Let our flag mean freedom and not a battle drum. We are all the heroes of Scotland. We're a nation hand in hand. We will march beneath her banners to protect our ancient land. In the glens and cities, there on every street are the living heroes no army will defeat. Let our flag mean freedom and not a battle drum.
Good evening, folks. I hope you're all well, comfy, cozy, safe, doing well, feeling top of the morning. Okay. Don't forget to hit the like button, says Steve. They say that helps the channel. How does it do it? I don't know. But that's the claim. Thank you, Skywalker, and everyone else. Good evening, October. And hello to Packer. I take it you were all glued to the television over the weekend. Excuse me. Good evening, Treble M. Good evening, Jemima. Thank you, Treble M, for asking, but no, I'm sorry to have to admit, but it's nevertheless true. Good evening, Alison. What I've actually got, folks, is something that I obviously never wanted, never thought I'd live in long enough to get, and that is a smoker's cough. Good evening, Earl of Stair. Excuse me. There's 42. There's a good old, well, not so much old, but there's the good 42 with Gemma G. Good evening, Emma G and 42. So anyway, while he is here, I shall remind all those else who are here. Good evening, Ian. The second Friday of June is earmarked for the poetry stream. Okie doke, so there's plenty of time, everyone. If you want to write something down or think about getting something down on paper, and send it to me, and we'll get it on the poetry stream. I thought he was there. I thought he was in here. I thought I'd seen his name, but somehow missed him. Oh, there he is there. Good evening, Gammon Sandwich. The other thing, I need to see how 42 feels about it. I was seriously thinking of getting Chris on to co-host with us, make it 3 hosts, him being a writer, of course. That would be just as interesting, if not add something slightly new, if you like. I know we've only done one. I was thinking about, giving it an extra layer of depth and breadth with 3 of his own. It could be quite interesting. I'll get my silk scarf ready, John, says Steve. Good evening, Rory. There we go, 42. Get writing, people. It's audience participation time, folks. Your opportunity to share a little of the light that people like myself or 42 are in all the time. But yeah, that's the whole idea. The whole idea is to get as many of you good people to put your thinking caps on if it's needed, and write a short or long poem if you haven't already got any material. I know some of you will have. Good evening, exiled. So, what's his name again? Webster. Chris Webster. He's one of our guys. He's a writer. He's got several books out. There's a series called Albion. I had him on the show. He's a real gem of a guy for our side, or for any side that matter. And I just thought about it. And but as 42 rightly says, the focus is not on our side of YouTube. The focus is on your side of YouTube. Audience participation. He knows who I'm talking about. Does 42. Yes, that would be good. Well, as I say, I just thought it might add that little bit more depth and width to any responses to the poems that come in, because we had lots of that last time, I seem to remember. Mannequin Skywalker. The photo of Helen in the thumbnail. Helen is beautiful. Well, thank you very much. That was taken down, well, up from here at my mother's second last house, the one that's right next to the cemetery. It's similar to the one in the book cover. It's not the same photograph, of course. Yeah, that's Helen. And those beautiful old-fashioned roses that you see behind her are really old-fashioned. Sad to say, like the old-fashioned roses that once grew at the back of this property, they were hauled out for some odd reason, and now they're no longer there and haven't been there for a long time. Well, thank you, Skywalker. So, you were spot on, as Helen, but a slightly different photograph, or a completely different photograph. The one that's on the thumbnail is after the wee fella has been born. Steve just scoffed a 3-pack of Fry's chocolate creams and a few raspberry truffles, and I feel sick as a dog. Diabetics on standby. Oh, when I'm in the mood, Steve, I can be just as ferocious as more ferocious than that, actually, and I don't say that with pride. I don't like raspberry as a flavour, no matter how it's presented. Good evening, Raymond. But I have eaten, a whole set of fries. Used to be called Fries Five Boys. I had up. I'm hoping you'll be one of the people who takes part in our poetry stream, Doc. And there is Rory. giving out the address on Amazon where you can find Chris's work. To say he's got a new book, a new novel out, but he has already written a series of books called Albion. It's a sword and sandal type thing, I believe he said. Skywalker. I meant same on the book, meaning just as beautiful. Oh, I see. I know you have the book. I know you bought it, Skywalker. Well, there's an age difference, roughly around 10 years between them. So, no, they can't be. Yes, they can. Gammon. I love ruffles, he's telling Steve. The missus bribed me with them. And I bet it doesn't take much for her to bribe you. Yeah. The way what the old saying, the way to win a man's heart is through his stomach. Oh, excellent, Doc. Excellent. That's great to hear. Ah, dear. Anyway, what have we got? Let's see. I've got a couple of short videos. How about this? I hope you haven't seen this. Have a listen, folks. This will stir your blood. there you go, folks. There's a question. Do they wear knickers under those kilts? Well, the tradition used to be that you didn't wear any form of undergarment when you were wearing a kilt, but that has no doubt changed. And I know my friend in Glasgow, when he got married and decided to wear a kilt, not the full regalia, I might add, he was wearing long-legged thermal underpants. And I think that's usually the first choice. Don't know about the women if they go for anything different when they're wearing a kilt rather than a skirt. Depends on the weather, I would expect. Yeah, Black is quite right, Exile. You can get all sorts of flavours, and I am told, although I don't know, I've not tried them. Well, that's not true. I've had a puff, awful. But I am told you get different flavours from different manufacturers and all that. So it's a wee touch like tobacco used to be. You could make choices, and it actually meant something. Garmin's saying, yeah, most blokes are a bit like this guy after a few. Not an untrue word there. Well, I've seen that done, Amanda and Julian. I have seen that at weddings. Once some ladies get a couple of drinks in them, they're lifting the kilt up to see what the man's wearing. Can you imagine it's the other way around, eh? I've never seen a man get angry about it. It's always, quite often, of course, they get a red face, they're embarrassed, but they take it in good fun. It ends up a big joke, but I've seen it happen at weddings. But nobody would do that if it was a parade or something. In a more informal setting. Well, no, they don't. That's for sure. 42 men don't wear knickers. No, but as I say, my friend had long-legged thermal underpants, and if I were ever to try wearing a kilt, I would definitely have thermal underpants. That's for sure. Well, I'm just going to speculate here, Amanda. Obviously, I don't know, but I should imagine for likes of myself, who's never worn a kilt, never had the opportunity to try one, to be honest. But I reckon that if I were to put on a kilt, thermal underwear, and went out, it would seem incredibly cold on my legs and up onto my thighs, etc. Simply because I'm not used to that. Obviously, as a man, I'm wearing trousers, so, and I dare say it must be chilly, and I dare say that's one of the reasons why women like to wear stockings. Makes sense. Again, did some men need a longer kilt? Well, again, Julia, that would depend on the man and the shape of the man. My view is, and it's based simply on visual considerations. I've always thought that a shorter man who's stocky can look really fantastic in a kilt. You know, the full regalia. And I've seen a lot of men again at weddings dressed that way. They're maybe 5'6", perhaps touch smaller, and a bit on the chubby side, but they look great in that gear. Whereas if you're built a bit more like me, you know, like a matchstick, I'm not so sure about that. That's why I say I've never seen myself in a kilt because I've never had the opportunity to try one on. Um, but if I was to wear it as some sort of serious part of my wardrobe, I would go for the Davidson Clan, of course. You know, the authentic Davidson Clan, and wear that. It's not particularly eye catching as a tartan in itself. It's very dark green in its base, or it seems to me. Well, again, you're quite right, Ian. I should have prefixed this, you know, my own kilt if I were seriously needing one. I wouldn't recommend it with a higher kilt. Your own kilt, yes, absolutely. Jerry and I, when we used to go to the black tie do's, the cigar do's in Glasgow, um, we used to hire. Jerry would pay for this, of course, but it was two hired dinner suits. And within no time, Laura decided to buy me my own dinner suit. And that was always more preferable to me. And I dare say the kilt would be the same, you know, if you were going out once and a wedding, say, and you were asked to wear one for whatever reason, dress code, say, I'd get the opportunity then to find out how good or bad I think I look in it. I don't think I look very good. I think you need to be a bit of a burly man, whether you're short or tall. I think you have to be, yeah, I think you have to be a bit more burlier than I am to make the kilt and you look good. That's my own feelings. But as I say, for myself, I've never had the opportunity to try it. 42 now. Men can wear whatever they identify as, says Amanda. Yeah, you can see that one, can't you? Somehow, I don't think so. I can't imagine um, pipers in a band of any description or colour, you know, marching along to really good stirring music and their kilts flying high, and one of the guys is wearing a pair of pink knickers. I don't think that's going to happen. Well, there is always that. I rather think that they are much more, how can I put it, stylish than a kilt. But that's because I suspect I won't look good in a kilt. I'm too thin. Tartan trews are a better choice, says Exile, and I do tend to agree with that. I've got black watch trews made of pure wool, so nice and warm in winter. Excellent, absolutely excellent. Yeah, I'd be happy with that. than the kilt. Simply because I don't think I'd look good in it. And that would be not a good advert for a kilt. Anglo-Saxon, good evening, sir, to you. Julia, my daughter is named after a tartan which she wore for her christening. Lindsay. That's nice. That is nice. So, I was having some thoughts at the weekend. Tall, skinny men, says Ian, look like shuttlecocks. Can you imagine? Streaky's got another image for us. A thin man in a kilt looks like a cocktail umbrella. Ah, oh, Julia Skinner. I mean, a longer willy, thus a longer kilt. Now, that's something I did not know, Skywalker. There are different kilts as well as different tartans. I really didn't know this. Ancient, modern, and hunting. Oh, I didn't know that. Thanks for that, Skywalker. We've got a town. We've got a shop in the centre of the town, and that's the big seller because of the tourist ships coming in. If you're going into the so-called mall in the town, then you pass this shop, and when the season's on, they have one of the guys, and he is short and stout, wearing the full regalia to encourage the tourists, of course. So you quite often see Orientals walk about the town in the season for tourists with cameras, wearing a tartan bonnet that they've bought in the shop. I'm not sure about that pronunciation, Gammon. Sorry. Hmm. Skywalker's got one. Why does that not? Oh, good evening, William. Well, well, well. Well, you know, William, well, well, well. Well, you haven't sent me a movie title yet with a link. Don't tell me you've forgotten it's your choice. I believe it's an adventure. What's the category? What's all this then? Special K on acid. Ooh. Good evening to Special K from Canada. somewhere in the wilds of Canada. Well, this is part of the capitalist system, isn't it? As we know and encounter it. Why this has happened or how long it's taken, I don't know, but it's been like that for a long time. What can you say? Not a lot. We are not in charge. I've just had a few plays on the bagpipes, says Julia. Difficult instrument. Well, I'm sure it is. You're doing complementary but different things with your fingers and hands with the actual pipe itself, and you're bellowing usually with your right arm at the same time. And coordination, yeah, I'm sure that's a real tricky one. And then there's the breathing to be mastered to make sure that you're not going to run out of breath at the wrong moment. But yeah, a difficult instrument. When I lived in Paisley at first, I didn't know this when I moved in because it was the autumn I moved into the flat. But come the spring, we got a wonderful, wonderful surprise. And the surprise was that 50 foot away from where we were, there was a wall, a high wall by, say, 10-foot high wall, brick wall. And behind it, this wall, the scout troop used to practice their bagpipes whenever the weather was nice. They would be outside practicing, learning how to play bagpipes. So once a week, we were, Helen and I, and everyone else for miles, I had to endure the sound of people learning how to play bagpipes. Makes an awful din. Awful. Where did that go? Where did that go? I was going to put up. Where is he going? I've picked 1979 movie The Wanderers. It was the only choice I could find that was on a free site. Never heard of it, William. I'll need to have a wee look and see what that's all about. So yeah, that wasn't a pleasant time living in these flats. I'm sorry, William, I never saw that. Really, I didn't. I haven't got the ability anymore to, really hone in on what's going on in the chat and speak to the camera about whatever it is I'm speaking about. So when I speak to the camera, I generally sort of ignore what's going on in the chat, and consequently, I often miss things. Oh, there's Toffee. He's here as well. Didn't see him coming in. Nice, way back there. Good evening, Toffee. I didn't see you coming in. Susie Thomas, good evening. I have no idea, William. Title means nothing to me. In fact, I think I better write it down. I don't want to forget. I don't need to go looking for it. The Wanderers. Right, I'll have a look for that. Well, I obviously missed it. William, sorry about that. So, oh, wait a minute. The Warriors, is that a movie about gangs? I think that's a movie about gangs. Or the Wanderers. I'm saying Warriors. It's Wanderers. Wander. Yeah, that's what I've got. Yeah, the Wanderers. I'm saying Warriors, but it's Wanderers. Yeah, that Warrior film is pretty good. But again, it's all about availability. You know, we can all think of lots of great movies, but they're not available. So it's what we can get available to all of us. So yeah, I was going to launch into a wee bit of thinking. And it was this. Ted. This is the new name here. I'm new here. What's a blether? Talking. Randomly speaking is what we call in Scotland a blether. Oh, they're both about gangs, right? Okay. I've certainly not heard the one that you've put up, the Wanderers. So I was thinking about at the weekend. I was thinking about hope. Good evening, Chris. Hope is what I was thinking about. Oh, you're Canadian. Goodness sake. Ontario. My good. We're international now. We've got Australian, we've got Canadian. And when he's on, we have got the USA as well. Well, welcome to the channel. I hope you become a regular. Yeah, back to this thought about hope. That's what I was looking for. I knew I'd seen it, Rory. My son used to busk with his bagpipes on Westminster Bridge in London. He could easily make £150 an hour. It paid his way through postgrad law school. That's dash good. That is really, really good money. That is. Streaky Bacon is giving even money on The Wanderers and The Warriors. Equally good movies, he's saying. Well, if you found it, it must be findable. Trudeau. I'm sure his daddy's proud of him. Whoever his daddy might be. Couldn't resist. Oh, that sounds good, Ian. Hot chocolate. See, that's the great thing about our language, isn't it? William saying, a blether is me, and that's it. That's the fantastic thing about Scotland. We have so many great words that can have a multitude of uses like there. A blether is me. And he's correct, of course. You can apply it to a human being, as you all know. And we've got many, many words like that. That's what's fascinating about our language. And the English language, I'm talking about standard English, or as I like to call it, Shakespearean English. It's just the best. It's just the best. So it is. Toffee is saying, genuinely, not to be an ass licker, William is by far my favourite YouTuber, but out stick about him. Oh, a bit autistic, beg your pardon, Toffee, bit autistic about him. I know that's meant humorously. So what was I talking about? Oh yeah, I was trying to get through this thing about I should have said blether there, William. Get you in for a blether. Anyway, yes, hope. And it occurred to me that we've all got in us the capacity for two kinds of hope. Now, I'll use the guitar as my example to show you what I mean by this. I hope I get to be a really good guitar player. Right. Now, that's a negative hope. Okay? It doesn't sound like it, but it is. It's negative hope. And that's what I've discovered. We all have that in us to create negative hopes for ourselves and others. Whereas it would be a positive hope to say, for example, I hope I have it in me to get past that part of guitar playing when my fingers are burning hot with pain when I put them near the strings. I hope I have the capacity to get past that. Now, why that's positive, why it is that, is because that hope can only be realized by you and your application of determination to pass that pain barrier that we all go through when you're learning a guitar. Whereas the other one, it doesn't have any Doesn't matter how much action you put into that, it will not go anywhere. Because in order to get to that hope, that negative hope, you have to keep changing into a positive, change the negative hope into a positive one. If you see that, if you follow what I'm saying, if I haven't made it sound too complicated, it's really quite simple. I hope things get better. I hope things get better. That's negative because it doesn't take you anywhere and it doesn't go anywhere. But if you say, or any of us say, I'm going to do something in the community, I'm going to get myself involved in that club because I like what they do, whatever it is they do, and I'm going to join that club and make that little group one member more than it already is. It's a positive hope. I hope I can do that. I hope I've got the perseverance to go through what it takes to become part of that little group that you're looking at or thinking about. So what I'm saying here is when you're thinking things through for yourself, not necessarily political thoughts, but just life in general, you should try and be aware. Are you making a negative hope or are you trying to create a positive hope so that you stay away from the negative? Like, I hope I'm a really good guitar player after 5 years, say something like that. That's a negative hope because your hope really at every level of playing is, I hope I can overcome the next challenge, whatever that is, depending on where you are as a guitar player and where you want to be as a guitar player. They're positive hopes. I hope I can get past that stage. Because when you put it in that positive light, you then know exactly how to get to that next stage. If you're just starting out, very often it's the pain in the fingers, and quite often going along with it is a cramp in the bones down here with the fingering. And so that first hope is, I hope I've got the perseverance to get through that bit. And so we should try and apply that in every aspect, don't you think? To make sure we're not thinking of a negative, which can never actually happen. I'll say if that makes sense. I haven't found it yet, Ian. I haven't found it yet. I put in Ren. I forgot about the high, or did I? I can't remember, but I definitely went a looking, and I saw lots of things with the word Ren in it, but not what you were talking about. So no, I haven't got up with it yet. I've heard other people now talking about this. Believe it or not, after you mentioned it. So there you go. That's my thought on that one. So, Chris P. Webster. Second Friday of June for the poetry stream, my friend. And it would be awfully interesting and for everyone, I think, if you were to join 42 and I and co-host it with the three of us. And we'll do exactly what 42 and I did last time round, and we'll read out stuff and talk about stuff. If that interests you, you can always drop me a note and think about it. Let me know if it's something that you might be interested in doing. If you don't want to do it, don't worry. No one will fall out with you. I prefer the Wanderers because of the music, says William. Again, I've not seen the other one, The Warriors. I know it was a big film in its time. So I saw the Treble M sent me a video from Joe Owens, and he was saying that he came in second last in the local council elections, same as myself. He was saying that he did it on his own without help, just like myself. Can't remember who he said he beat. So he didn't. He's either putting a brave face on it or he feels as though he did rather well considering everything that he was up against. So at least he was he stood, he tried. I don't know how he conducted himself in terms of campaign material, but you have to applaud the fact that he has tried, and I believe you have to pay money down in England for by-elections. I think I'm sure it's like £500 you have to pay, which seems rather a lot. Aye, aye, aye. No dope, no hope. This is just my thoughts, of course. I think if you construct it properly, the positive hope, you get to see that what you're actually doing is creating a pathway for you to succeed in that hope. Well, there you see, that's a negative hope. I, Special K. I hope I get a new computer this year. Well, if you stick to that hope, there's not much chance of it happening, I would say, unless someone gifts you one. Whereas you could, and obviously I'm just using this as an example, Special Case. I don't think I'm picking on you or anything. But it's a good example. I hope I get a new computer this year. Is in that forum. It's a false hope. It's an idle hope. It won't lead anywhere unless you're gifted a computer. But if you turn that round and say, for example, uh, I hope I've got the discipline to put £5 a week away to save up for a new computer. I hope I've got that self control that I won't spend any money that I save up for the new computer. Is a positive hope. But at the same time, it creates automatically, in this instance, it would be, have I got the determination and willpower not to fritter away all my money that I said I was putting aside for the new computer? Because that would then become attainable if you reworded that, if it was a serious thing, right? That's simply my point. Again, in my mind, perhaps no one will agree with me, but that doesn't matter. But in my mind, what you're doing is you're moving yourself forward by simply the power of words. And that's the other thing that came home to me when I started thinking about all of this. And I've said it many times before, the power of words. That's where the magic really happens. That's what our enemies use against us, the power of words. I'm just trying to make you aware that in those moments that we all have when we begin to hope, that we should try and change the way we do it. If we're doing it in the negative all the time, we should try and steer away from that and think and hope in the positive term. Rory, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't believe that William Shakespeare used the C word in any of his plays. Don't be stirring up now. But obviously, no, he didn't. He didn't. He doesn't have any swearing in it. There's lots of what you might term blaspheming, cursing God, and all that, fate. But there's no effing and blinding, of course. Oh, that's good. That's great, Chris. As I say, it's no disrespect to 42 or yourself. It's just a question of how deeply you enjoy literature, and if our audience is good enough to send us material, then I think it's incumbent on us to offer some response to that. And it was great fun. It's not, doom and gloom and serious. So we'll count you in on that one then, Chris. So Chris will join 42 and myself. And as I say, this was really um, something that he and I were keen about doing last year and getting it up as a regular item on the calendar for the year. Start a bit of a tradition about it. Loch Fyne Kippers. Oh my gosh, now you're talking. Skywalker, now you're talking. Loch Fyne Kippers, beautiful. What's this you're saying, Toffee? Sensum doesn't have access to technology currently. No. Not like him. Anyway. Loch Fyne. Yes. Have you tried Arbroath Smokies, folks? Have you ever tried them? Obviously, you can only get them up at Arbroath in Aberdeen, parts of Aberdeen. They just come off the pier and straight into the shops up there, the way it used to be here. And you saw his video then, Toffee. As I say, Treble M was kind enough to send it to me. He's going to beat Toffee if he can get hold of him. Very good. I usually does these things from what looks like the city centre. He calls it city centre, and it's eye-opening to the crowds that are going past him. It's eye-opening. I went right off whelks, as you call them. I tried whelks once, and it was like chewing a rubber ball. In my part of the world, folks, that word is pronounced whelks, more of a U sound, whelks. And they used to sell them once upon a time when we had fishmongers in this town. We don't actually have fishmongers in this town. You can't buy fresh fish. Anything you buy out of a supermarket, I don't call fresh fish. So there is no fishmonger here anymore. Yeah, he gave out the number, Toffee. He gave out his result. He actually had a screenshot on the video. Number of votes he got. I honestly don't remember what it was. I don't think it was that far away from what I got myself under the same conditions. But again, I don't know the local politics, so I can't say any more than that. But the fact he stood, the fact that he didn't come last, and to me at this point, that's a gain. That is a win, especially if he has touched upon certain subjects in his material, if he put any out. It's a deposit, not a fee. Oh, I know, I keep forgetting that, 42, you're right. If you get a certain amount of votes, 500, I think, you get it back. I know, I keep forgetting that, 42. You're absolutely right. Up here in Scotland, we don't have that. You simply get the forms and put your name down and off you go. And I forget that if you get a percentage of the vote, you get your money back. But I still see that as a tripwire for working class people. Because the way I would look at it from a practical point of view is, can I afford to lose £500? If I don't get that percentage, can I afford not to have it? And that's where I see it being a bit of a tripwire. I don't think it should exist anywhere. I really do think it should be no charge at all. Because again, I'm convinced that, rightly or wrongly, this is the way I view it, that on a practical level, what is back to this hope, is it a positive hope or a negative one? Well, the positive hope is, yes, you could get yourself elected to the council. Yes, you could get yourself elected to the parish council if you have such a thing. Don't have these up here, but I know they exist in England. So I could get myself elected to the parish council. And also, I could get myself elected to the school board. As far as I know, none of that, well, up here, none of that would cost if it all existed. But it should not cost any. I don't think it should cost anyone any money to stand, to take part in the community. And for us, with no George Soros type figure in the background with unlimited money, then we're going to have to start and build the communities with action of that nature. You don't have to do my approach, but you'll find your own approach, even if it is only giving out non-election flyers. You can get yourself elected council. Be helpful, of course, if you had others to help you. I mean, I think honestly, the state, the SNPs, and if we had those council elections this year, not saying that I would necessarily have won, but I'm confident I would have picked up more votes, a lot more votes than I did, simply because their image is, in my opinion, really broken now. As I say, it doesn't cost anything up here, and I don't think there should be a fee anywhere. But I forgot about that, so thanks for the reminder. And that's where we should start. If you have church councils and you are a believer yourself, then you should be part of that council if they've got any vacancies. Likewise with the school, you should be on that school board or thinking and trying to get yourself on that school board. Because at the school board level, you can put a stop, well, at least you can put a spanner in the wrench for them, spanner in the works rather, by saying, no, I don't want that kind of material in the school. That's how we can change things at this level, using politics. But it just means thinking in a slightly different way. Yes, I was thinking of actually reading that Anglo-Saxon. I was thinking of doing that on the night. Just a thought I had, Because as you know from last year, and it'll likely be the same this year, it's very casual and informal in the way we do it. Because the thing that we're 42 now deliberately made clear to each other and yourselves, this is not a competition. This is to get you more engaged, especially with the mind working. Raymond is saying, the trouble is, all my get up and go has got up and gone. Very good. Very good. Ah, there's a poet in the making there. Special K. I hope my get up and go find its way home. Assonance. That's called assonance. It's not a rhyme, but it's called assonance. God, I had to dig that from memory there. It depends on the vowel sound and how you use it. Well, I'll do my best. Skywalker originally wrote it about the Hun. I hope John reads it. I'd like to hear his opinion on it. Well, I do. From the little I know of Kipling, I do note he's very obviously political in his writing. Just need to remind me nearer the time. But I don't mind reading it. In fact, Toffee asked me one night to read his favourite, which is Robert Frost, the American poet, stopping by woods on a snowy evening, which I was happy to do for him. I've got it recorded, actually, that particular poem. Exile is telling us, I've eaten whelks, cockles and mussels, love them, can't get them these days. Eels, never tried, don't want to. And an arbroath smoky, which I have tried. My late wife Helen had relatives up there. That's where her dad and his brother originally came from. They were farmers up, had a farm outside Arbroath originally. I once knew a girl from Behaven. I'm not going to finish it. There's our Skywalker being inspirational. There's nothing united in this kingdom except we few men, we mighty few, our band of brothers. So yeah, we were both pleased how successful it went. Oh, yeah. Our broth smokies are top notch. Get them every week. Yeah, I'll bet. Why not? Why not? Oh, I've been talking about this toffee. The Woodlander has a great initiative going currently. Yes, he certainly has, and I've been plugging it like mad since I caught his video and he was on while I was talking about it, which was really good. And he was commenting from chat as I spoke about it. Once he gets everything up and running for the front house, and by that I mean all the legal stuff is all tied down and above board, along with the bank side and the company side. Once all of that work has been done and the website's up, I'll certainly be having a close look at it. That's for sure. Because as he said, and I certainly agree with him, and I always have, and you'll see how this comes together in my mind, that these two elements are linked. Woodlander's initiative and the political party are linked in common purpose. Because if you think about it this way, now Woodlander is already there. Now, how would it be for Woodlander if where he is there was one or two of our folk on the council? And that's where we can exert influence if it's needed at that level. If this initiative, if people will support this initiative of woodlanders. That's what I see. They go hand in hand. This is not competition. And he said it himself. There'll come a point when we will need political support of some sort. And that's absolutely correct. And I honestly don't know. Honestly don't know how much of a help you could be at local level on the council, that is, to this initiative of buying land. But there'll be some kind of crossover, some place that these two worlds will touch, even if it's only legal. That could be, very important to have, as I say, at the very least, one of our people on that council that was dealing with it. And that's why I've always said you can do an awful lot if you can get yourself onto that council body, even if there is only one of you, because if you're passionate enough, you may be able to move others to your position. It's not big politics, but it's damn important politics because it's right in the community. So I'm all for it, Toffee, for many, many, many reasons. But it's going to be just like the politics. If people don't join and take part as however they can, it'll go nowhere. And he has said in his video that he's looking for 100 people. There would have been a time I would have thought getting 100 people would be really easy. But my experience so far is it's quite the opposite. And it'll be difficult for people like me, if I were to join that initiative, it would be difficult for me to put £10 a week aside to get my 1,000. And there'll be many in that position. And that's a real test. It's back to that positive hope thing. I would be hoping that I've got the resolve to put that £10 a week aside. What's this? Skywalker. I eat them cold, sliced, slide right off the bone, chunky white flakes of delicious smoked haddock, frothing out the mouth. Yeah. That lovely smell. Don't forget that lovely smoke smell. So I give it a big thumbs up, and as I say, once I've satisfied myself with all the nuts and bolts of it, I'm hoping to join it. But it all comes down to nuts and bolts, as always. I'm getting way behind here. You guys are way ahead of me already. Oh, Steve, you're advertising Tuffy. Ha. And young Icky. Thank you, Steve. Chris is saying, I lived in Africa for 12 years, and amongst other critters, I've eaten snails, ostrich, termites, and crocodile. But my favourite was reindeer when I was in Norway. Oh yeah, venison is beautiful. Oh yeah, now you're talking. Nice, a nice deep claret to go with it. Oh yeah, absolutely. Brilliant. That's one of the things that my friend makes for me at Christmas for Christmas dinner when I go up. It's usually venison we have. Gorgeous. He's kind of financially more sound than I am by a long way. Skywalker. John used to go to Creel Boomers Bay to pick whelks with my father. Wrinkles and Yorkshire. Yeah, I used to be able to pick the whelks and the cockles and the mussels off the beaches here when I was a boy, and did so. It's a place here called Inverkip. It used to be a village when I was a boy, a real village, and there was a bit of beach there, and we often went down, lit a little fire. My granny would have a kettle, and we'd go searching for seashells, cockles, mussels, whelks, and she'd cook them up in the pot, and we'd eat them there and there. But as I say, along the way, I don't know, what age would I be? Somewhere in my late 20s or early 30s, I just went right off whelks. I couldn't eat them now. Even the thought gives me a bit of the bulk. It's kind of a bit icky. Just to be clear what that means. And send some telegram. Toffee's commenting here, obviously, and what I was talking about. We're screwed. The right will not unite. Well, I was quite taken aback to be told last week that Kenny Smith has split with Mark Collette. And now we have a group called Homeland. headed up by Kenny Smith, as far as I know. Which means, whichever way you look at it, that PA is down. However many went with Kenny, they're going with Kenny. And that means that PA are down in their numbers. That's not good. That's not good. Because I would do the same thing with Kenny that I've previously said about Mark. And this is no, I don't think this could be construed as a criticism. It's just I think it's a fact. Kenny's as well known almost as what Mark Collette is. And so any publicity that they draw to themselves will be negative, which is a great shame, but that's the way it is. And I don't think Kenny's got any chance either of getting his group as a political party, registered party, that is, for the same reasons that Mark can't. And so we have yet another fragmentation. I wish they would just all come and join my party. But that's unlikely. There's Woodlander's channel if you haven't yet found them or you want to see that video. I think there's a certain truth to that, Raymond. When every other person is a foreigner, wherever you look today, it's difficult to make our voices heard. Yes, it is. But as I say, unlike too many of our folk, I haven't yet given up on the politics. And although I do speak a great deal about what it would be like to be either First Minister or Prime Minister, I know I do a lot of talking that way. But you don't get there by jumping there. Not if you intend to stay. Yeah, money people can do their best to impose from above. But we should be at this level, at every level, whether we've got a political party or not. We should be in the community. If you're not on YouTube and you don't have a family, in the sense of kiddies, then you should be spending time out in the community doing good stuff that you're interested in doing, and becoming part of that community and becoming known in the community. And as I said before, the politics will come out of conversations. It always does. And once people know you a little bit, they're more inclined to listen to what you say. And that's, to me, the way forward. That's the solid way forward. I know it takes time. I know that. I'm well aware of it. And I don't have that much time left. And I see it. And I do it. And I know I will not see the fruits of this. I know that. But we have to get out of this false hope syndrome that too many of us are in. And that includes me as well. I do it myself. But when I come to my senses, I know that if we don't do something, then nothing will happen to improve anything. It's that brutal, really. And it's got to the point when you can't, again, take false hope that someone else will do it. Because the other consideration is, and I'm only going on experience of YouTube's, not just this channel, but other channels. We've got to hit, well, we have got to somehow make real, proper connections with the young people. They're the ones that are coming through the school system now. And somehow we've got to get to that age group, the teenagers of today. Because that's where our future is, if we're going to have a future, as well as the babes that are being born. And no one can do it but us. This is it. And everyone can contribute something. Unless you're housebound, of course. If you're housebound, well, there's not a lot you can do. I'm just assuming reasonably good health. You can do something. All of us can do something. And the thing I told you I took from Woodlander, and he knows because I said when he was here, I'm not going behind his back or anything. Once I get this party business sorted out, I'm going to offer people the opportunity to pay up the subscription, because it just genuinely never occurred to me that there would be people in my audience who would be that tight for money that they couldn't afford that. £20 straight out. Never mind pensioners. And that's where the Woodlander is going, I hope, going to strike a chord, because he's saying that you could pay it up over 2 years. And of course, it's got that flip side to it that I'd forgotten about when I was talking about it. He reminded me about the flip side of all of this. The idea that we can then, with the kind of money that we could raise this way, we could then instantly become our own bankers and help our own people to start their own little business. Instantly, we could be those bankers. We wouldn't need to go to the banking lobby. It's got so much potential, but as I say, I once thought getting 100 folk to join something would have been not impossible, but it's proved to be difficult. I think he's answering me. You support Woody's initiative, but you couldn't live on the same land as me, you say. I mean, well, but I'm essentially anger manifested into a human, very non-conform. No, not very conform. Yes, but that was the other part of it as well. Remember, he's hoped to get 100 people. 100 people invest £1,000. They buy a land or a bit of a land and they don't use all the money or do use all the money, no matter. But once there's general agreement to buy a piece of land and spend, it's let us say, just for conversation, the £100,000, then you've got that 100 people have now got to sit down and collectively agree on how that land is to be used. Will it be occupied or will it remain as is to be used in a recreational way? All of that's got to be decided and mechanisms have got to be in place to be able to make those decisions. So it's not quite, I don't think, Toffee, the idea everyone, well, the 100 people club together, save up the cash, buy a bit of land, and somebody then goes and lives on it using the woodlander model. I don't think it's necessarily that, although that could be part of it. Or perhaps that's all of it. But not the way he was talking. He was talking more like the way I'm now talking. The idea that once the land is bought, then it's a question of how best to use that land. Might it be best to put, depending on, I was working on what Woodlander's got, which is 5 acres. So if you bought 5 acres, you could, if there was general agreement, you could put somebody on there and say they wanted to have sheep, for example. Well, they could be shepherds then, couldn't they? On that 5 acres, keep some sheep. Now you've got meat that you can cull and buy along with the eggs and all the other things that Woodlander's got. You're beginning to grow an economy out of nothing. And I think that's what he's got in mind. Something along those lines, where not every bit of land would necessarily be occupied. All comes down to, does he get his 100 people? Do they get their 100,000 together? And then how much land can you buy for that? Are you better to buy small parcels if and when they become available? Or are you better to go for a big piece of land if and when it became available? Or confrontations, right? Well, you're out of it. So just consider that there's many possibilities that on this initiative. And that's one of the things that I find rather exciting about it. It's not, or it certainly doesn't appear a plan to, we're going to buy up, 5 acre plots when they become available, and you'll go and live there if that's what you want. I think it's a lot more than that. I think it's a lot more ambitious than that. Are you aware, Amanda? Well, you take care. Sleep well. And you might find also the thing that would happen. I honestly believe this would happen to all of us. So I'm not just saying this to Toffee. But I think if we had a piece of land like that, and say you did live on it, and I wouldn't want to live that way myself, okay? So you can count me out on that one. But for those who do want to at least try it, you might find, and I think you would find, that your general health and temperament and state of mind would, over a relatively short period of time, would come to rest upon itself. Because a lot of the aggravations, the things that needle us every day, wouldn't be there. Not on that bit of land it would. Well, as I say, I think listening to between the words, well, that's good news for you, Ian. I get my new glasses tomorrow, yeah. Nothing worse than a headache. Oof. So, are you off, Ian? Okay, Steve, rather. Okay, doke. Sleep well, my friend. 750,000 people, says Treble M, coming to the UK. That's without counting the people coming over in the boats. That's just this year, folks. We need to do something. Everyone needs to do something. It's getting to the point where I hardly recognise my own town. Unelected Indian Prime Minister, unelected Pakistan First Minister of Scotland, a Pakistan Mayor of London, and that prick in Ireland, that homosexual man, you mean? What's happening? Directed at me. Well, you know what's happening. We're being dismantled of power and authority. And we have, all of us, we have allowed it to go on. England so far has taken the brunt of all this for all sorts of many different reasons. England has definitely taken the brunt of all this, but it's coming everyone's way. Even Ulster will get it. They will not escape if this goes on long enough. And I don't say it to frighten you. I'm just laying out what I see as an inevitability at this point. I'm tired saying it. If you don't do anything, nothing will change. It's that simple and that complicated. There isn't any more room and time to leave it to somebody else with that false hope, as I hope all turns out right in the end type attitude. Well, that's okay, my friend. You just carry on. That's what I'm saying. Sleep well. Skywalker. Nah, we're fooked. Nobody will stand together. Well, we've all been saying it. Who's the people who are not standing? Who are the people who won't do anything? Who are the I think the current expression to use to be modern is who are the bad actors? Have we got bad actors? And if we have got bad actors, then we need to get rid of them. We have to leave them behind. It's as simple and as complicated as that, folks. I think there's a real space now in Scotland for my party, or because that's all we've got in Scotland is my party. But it won't happen. And the reason it won't happen, not because I don't want it to, or party members don't want it to happen. It'll happen because there's not enough of us and we don't have enough money. And because there's not enough of us, then we've got no distribution, really. But there is a real opportunity because I'm reasonably convinced that the present First Minister is going to make such a hash of things, it's going to get even worse for the SNP, despite all the possibilities of legal actions. That's my genuine assessment. And I find it very frustrating that my party is in absolutely no position to try and make inroads, because in Scotland, Scottish people are reluctant to vote Tory, and so I can see that, God help us, the Labour Party are going to move back in again. We may end up with a mismatch, which was always the intention of how Holyrood should be. I think with the right policies, a new party would do very well in Scotland and throughout the UK for that matter. But we don't have the necessary. And if other groups keep fracturing like this, as they seem to do, it seems to be part of the history, then we will definitely get nowhere. And then you've got to look at the children and worry about them, what's going to be for their life when we're gone. That's the real concern. although I don't have any, my own son is halfway through his life. He's in his 40s now. But it doesn't stop me worrying and being concerned about other members of my family who are much, much younger. Alison's two are only starting out in life. What kind of life are they going to have? What kind of life are your children or grandchildren going to have? Are you going to be able to lie back if you get that moment at the end of your life to lie back and think about it? Did you do anything to help? Or did you leave it up to someone else to do it? I'm the kind of person that I want, if I get that moment at the end of my life, whenever that is, I want to be able to say to myself, well, at least I tried. I tried my best, but it didn't work. Or, yay, it did work, and I'm leaving a slightly better Scotland than the one that I've been living in for the last too many years. That applies to all of us. There's nothing special about me. Nothing at all. I agree with what Chris is saying. I know he's not speaking to me directly here. We only need the spirit. He's correct. We only need the spirit of 300 Spartans. The minority can carry the weight and buy the rest time if we are determined enough. Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. No matter how big the movement is, it started with a couple of people. Never forget that. It just happens to be true. Even the mighty Illuminati started with one person. I'm not going to mention the other obvious one because he's not just a human being. I was going to say, well, look at Christianity. It started with a single figure, Jesus Christ, but of course, he was all man and all God at the same time, so we can't compare ourselves to that. But there are plenty of honest to God human being examples. And every organization starts with one or two. Treble M is saying what we all know to be true. You get to bed. See you next time. God bless. Super mod. Absolutely. Well, again, I couldn't agree more. We must collectivise. We're running out of road rapidly. Absolutely. So I'm hoping to have some news for you in a few weeks' time. Because if Woodlander gets any support at all, let's say he doesn't get the 100 people he wants, and I would agree with him, that would be a great number to get, 100,000. If I've got my arithmetic, or is it a million? I don't know. Doesn't matter. It's a lot of money. Even if we were getting 50, anything at this point is better than what we have, which is damn all. We've got nothing. You can't just keep looking at Woodlander and saying, wow, that's a great example. I wish I could do that. Well, here's your chance. Well, again, the sentiment is correct. Can't fly away from here, says Skywalker. I don't want to anyway. It's ours. Absolutely, it's ours. Our ancestors died for it. And that's not an exaggeration. All our ancestors died for this land. I'm not talking about war heroes. I'm talking about every ancestor died for this land. And every ancestor helped to make, put together what we have. They call it heritage, they call it history, they call it many different things. But it was actually bloody men who got together and collected all those big stones to build those bloody great castles all over Scotland. They weren't wished into existence or hoped into existence. Men went out in all sorts of weather and brought those stones to those sites and built those ruddy great castles that everyone wants to come and see. That's how you have heritage, because people actually went out and did something and left it behind for the benefit of others. It's that simple. I mean, I've often wondered that. How long did it take to put up Edinburgh Castle, for example? Imagine working on that without scaffolding. You're putting up the outside wall all around that cliff, that rock it's sitting on. Well, men had to do that. Men had to go and build that thing. And it wouldn't be there for us to admire or to have these exhibitions once a year in its grounds. It's the same as anything, no matter how old it is. Same with all these churches and church halls that are being turned into other uses. They were built by our ancestors. All those churches. They were the church, after all. That's why the building exists. every single thing involved in your life and my life was built by the people who live here. And I'm talking about contemporary things as well. Who's building the houses for the illegal aliens to live in? Well, we are. By and large, we are. Everything that we admire our ancestors built. And if we don't start building, there'll be nothing left. And that's what we need to do. We can't build from scratch like they did hundreds and hundreds of years ago, obviously, but we can build something else to tackle the problem. And I think Woodlander has part of the answer. I think politics is also part of the answer. Otherwise, people like Exiled Viking and Toffee and that generation of men and women will be left with nothing by the time they get to my age, if they get to my age. There'll be nothing for them. Streaky saying, I think you could buy Blackburn for 50 grand. Are you talking about the football team? I assume you're talking about the football team and not the place, Blackburn. Could be wrong, though. Again, as you well know, Skywalker, I'm in a total agreement. I want my country back. These beautiful islands, ours, they are. And I know you're doing your best. I know that for a fact that you are doing your best as an individual, as part of the political party. I know that. So what the hell's going on at PA then that caused that rupture? Don't need that kind of collapse. And that's what it is. It's a collapse. I think you may well be right about that, Exiled. I think if it's ever going to start, that's exactly where it will start. They're not afraid of it. They've seen a lot of it in their time. So they know what the sound of guns is like. They've heard them. We haven't. That's the difference. And perhaps that's why they don't get, not yet anyway, the same influx that goes on elsewhere. It is heartbreaking, Streaky, but it's not hopeless. It's not hopeless. It's never hopeless. There are always possibilities. The trouble is getting people to act upon their intentions. Chris is saying having kids and grandkids means that now I have no choice. I can't leave the area. I have to keep on the struggle against this madness. Yeah, and the greater tragedy of all, of course, is it's not just Chris. There's millions and millions of us. My roots are here. I don't particularly like Greenock. I don't. I never have. For many different reasons it would take hours to explain to you all. But this is my home, this town, whether I like it or not. This is my roots. This is where my history is, where my family are buried, for goodness sake. Where am I going to go, even at my age? Where's my son going to go? To say I go on about my age simply because I don't want you to misunderstand. I was perfectly aware of my age when I started the party. But again, I took the route. If I don't do it now, who else is going to do it? Well, at the time, nobody. Nobody else was doing it. So I did it. Now, whether that had any effect on John Lawrence or not, I have no idea. Probably not. He had probably got to that same point I'd gotten to. If I don't do it, no other bugger's going to do it. So he did it. I know. It's tricky. It's 11 o'clock. It's reckless behaviour to stream further. We all feel this way, is what I'm trying to convey and convince you of. Thank you, Trevor M. Thank you, Streaky. We all feel this way. And so I say again, we have to, all of us have to do what we can until there is enough of us to make a difference. And if people would act promptly, in my opinion, and I'm only going on the numbers that I'm aware of on YouTube. I know that's not the whole picture, of course. But taking those numbers alone, if they were all members of the same party, what difference would that make? A huge difference. We would then become a force to be reckoned with. "3 p.m. for Special K." That's interesting. Well, it was an attempt, Raymond. That's exactly what it attempted to do. It hasn't done it. In my opinion, it hasn't done it. It has certainly caused immense damage to people, psychologically and physically. I see it in Laura. Don't have to go very far. I see the damage that's done. And that, again, is by the millions. Skywalker, the fearful and mean of spirit, the bad actors, and I don't mean here, by the way. Yeah, there are bad actors amongst us. And the sooner you, I would say, if you don't see them, then you're not looking carefully enough. But leaving that particular problem aside, Sensum mentioned it months ago at one of the stream as it happens. He picked up this idea from another fella. I thought it was Sensum's idea, but he corrected me on that. We need to get together. Let's say the YouTubers, as we're known as, YouTubers need to get together and agree on issues that we are all in alignment with and against, and use that to demonstrate in public. But I think the demonstrations in public have to be of a different order. I don't think there's enough coming out of a demonstration. There's more put into a demonstration, getting it organised and one thing and another. That's a lot of effort. But what is coming out of those demonstrations isn't nearly enough. And a lot more should be coming out of these demonstrations. Now, I've not been to one, so perhaps I'm being unfair. Perhaps things go on that I'm not aware of, but I don't think so. But if they are, then I apologise. I am in the wrong. But that's one thing that I think could be easily improved. What happens on a demonstration, like Erskine, for example? Now we can only organise our people. But if you know anything about people, if you give a lead, they will follow. That's my view on it. Rory, what do you think of Rishi Sunak, a Hindu, reading the lesson at the coronation? What on earth has become of the Church of England? Well, to take the second part of your question first, Rory, the Church of England, in my estimation, and I am not a biblical scholar, it's not a Christian organization anymore. It's way, way out somewhere. I don't know where it's meant to be, but it's certainly not a Christian organization the way it's being organized and presented to the public. The New Testament is very clear on homosexuality. Jesus said it himself. He also was very, very clear on what he would do if he ever came across an adult molesting a child. He did say he would tie a rope around their neck, tie it to a giant stone, and throw them in the sea. I'm paraphrasing, of course, but that was what he was saying he would do and should be done. So there's no way on this realm can anyone who claims to be representing Jesus say anything like that is acceptable. And I see the Roman Catholic popes at it as well. So these are not Christian folk, for a start. Now, for a Hindu to be reading the lesson at the coronation is completely and totally out of place, not just historically, but in a ritualistic sense, it's completely out of place. as well you know, and most people have got a good idea, is that each element of those rituals, and that's what they are rituals, are fitted together in a particular order for particular individual reasons. And if you start messing around with that, then you don't have a coronation. I'm not sure that we have a coronation, because he went ahead and he changed defender of the faith to plural, defender of faiths. That's not his job. That's not the oath that was laid down, if you're an Anglican, by the Church of England. Defender of the faith. This man is, in my opinion, Rory and everyone else, in my opinion, this man is going to bring down what's left of the monarchy in this country. That's what I think. He's already shown that his advisors can't rein him in, can't control him. When you think of that change alone, never mind a Hindu being involved, but his participation in it, he made those changes and they came to pass. So I don't know if, from a ritualistic point of view, let's put it that way, I don't want to call it spiritual, because it's not in the true sense, or how I perceive the true sense. So I'm not all that sure in my mind he's actually been properly crowned. And for the idea that his wife is actually a queen of England is contrary to so much history and the tradition that goes with the history and the tradition that goes with a woman in her position. She shouldn't be queen. But I dare say there's an army of so-called experts who will come out now and convince the public that everything is okay, or has already done that. I wouldn't know, because I don't have a television. That's as full an answer as I can give you at this point in time, Rory, at this time of night, that is. I'm not quite sure that he is actually properly crowned because of what has happened. They'll claim he is, of course, and so will he. And that'll be the end of the matter eventually. But it doesn't square up with 1,000 years of Christianity and hundreds of years of the Church of England from Henry VIII onward. It doesn't fit in there. I think it's a dangerous road that he's taken. As far as the long history of the monarchy is concerned, I think this will at one point in future history be seen as a watershed moment. That's what I really feel about it, because I can see now that his mouth is not going to be closed, because he's a king now. Less said about that, the better, Rory, let alone the dancing black singers. We have the spirit of 300 Spartans at the moment, says Streaky. And here's another good example from the real world. Fidel Castro, whatever you think of him, or what he stood for or claimed to stand for, started with less than 100 men in the late 1950s and gained more over the next few years before taking Havana City. And how did they do it? They did it by the same method that I'm trying to employ in this age, by becoming involved in my local community, so that I, as a single individual, notionally represent a political party that is independent and has the interests of the people of this country at the center of it all. Anglo is saying my answers could have gone total Uncle Adolf on the Welsh, Cornish, and Scottish. We didn't, out of respect to fellow warriors. Yeah, I never forget that before the Second World War was unleashed upon us, that the men of the black shirts who paraded up and down the country in fairly large numbers were the same men who took the black shirts off and put on the khaki of the British Army and went and fought in Europe, and then were thrown out of Europe at Dunkirk and came home, and then many of them were then arrested and put in prison. Were they really traitors? They did, after all, take their guns and go into Europe and try to fight the Wehrmacht. Did fight the Wehrmacht and lost at that point. But a lot of them were immediately arrested when they came home. But again, Rory, I'm not saying that you're wrong. I'm sure you're right. A lot of the hotels housing the illegal aliens, please use that word, folks, not just Rory, all of you. Please use the expression illegal aliens. That is what they are. They are not migrants of any kind. Are owned by foreigners, yes. But these are things that can only be dealt with when you've got power, authority, and you can only get that through politics. And we're back round in circles again, folks. And we're back to, well, what are we going to do about it? In my naivety, I thought, well, once we've got a party, it'll take care of itself. Everyone will join and we'll march forward into the sunshine. How naive was that? Skywalker, I saw the Neolithic groundworks on the Isle of Lewis near the standing stones, the Calenius standing stones. Amazing. 5,000 years old. They're also up on Sky. Not in Sky. They're on Sky, but I saw them when I went up to that wedding. Again, what else do you need? What is it? What is it that's holding anyone back? Uncertainty? Lack of confidence in yourself? What is it? Rory, I spoke to Jodie Kay the other day. She's upset about the split in PA. She did mention that she would like to talk to you about coming on your channel, however. Well, that's good. Pleased to hear that. Well, I'm not jumping for joy because PA and have split or fractures in some way or other. But Kenny Smith and Mark Collett had not been on speaking terms for years. Somehow they managed to patch it up and Kenny came back. Yeah, I know that is part of the history. What's happened this time? I've no idea. I only found out last week that this had happened. Well, I'm hoping so too, Anglo. Not that I would be much good at my age, but I would be willing to try. Oh, I think you're absolutely right, Exiled. I do agree with that opinion. I do. Exiled saying anyone thinking they can rock up and do an act without impunity in Ulster is very sadly mistaken. Oh, yeah, their 10 toes will be found sticking out of a beach somewhere on the west coast. I'm sure. I'm specifically talking about those dingy illegals from third world, absolutely. Oh, they'll run into a ton of problems in Ulster, that's for sure. Both sides of the divide will set upon them. Don't think there's any wager on that one. Don't think you're going to get a bookie to give you odds on that one. So yeah, well in agreement. Oh no, it's time's getting on. Why is this always too short? Highlighter pen. That's a new name here. Good evening, highlighter pen. The winds of change happen. You're living through a whale period of our glorious history. Oh, that is definitely the truth. This is a period of history that will be written about and written about, and we are here living through it, being part of it. The next step is, are you going to be one of the people who help change it? I think with everything that's going on, the cracks are appearing all over the place. Well, you could go back to the Pius the 11th or 12th, you'll get them. This is a heretic that's in the Vatican. There's the last Anglo-Saxon king, Harold Goodwinson, was the last. It's like everything else in life, Exile. It depends on which aspect you're looking at. Again, I'm no authority on these matters. Some people would agree with Rory, Paul II. I never watched any of it, Trevor. So you're telling me something here that I didn't know. The pop concert the following the day after the coronation, beg your pardon, was a Mother Earth ritual. Oh, surprise, surprise, eh? Surprise, surprise. Anglo. My answers finally saw off the Vikings at Stanford Bridge in 1066. Now there's the date, 1066, the Battle of Hastings, eh? We marched down south and the Normans were like, bonjour. Yeah, well there's a festival. I don't know if it'll happen again, but before the slamdemic hit us, there used to be a yearly festival down at Largs, just down the coast a bit, a Viking festival, and they have all these exhibitions on the promenade at the front of the town to celebrate that Vikings landed here in the Clyde and had a settlement down at Largs. Little known, of course, but it helps bring tourists to the place. It's a tourist trap, Largs. Well, that's a question, Raymond. Sunak, the unelected Indian oligarch. Sunak oligarch. Who does he represent? Well, himself and his cronies, other oligarchs. That's who they represent. The cosmopolitan class, not us. Not by a long way. Well, again, Mrs. Mrs. Simpson must be turning in her grave. Look what that caused. What can you say? As I said, well, what I can say is what I've said earlier about this. Linda, good evening, Linda. I agree, I used to like the Queen, but this Charles, the grit, gives me the creepoids. Well, as I've told you, I've heard many a time, and it came from my mother, but not only her, I heard lots of people say this. The only reason the Queen wouldn't retire is because she knew what her son was like. And she deliberately kept him off the throne as long as she could. Well, up until the very end, essentially, forcing herself to do wee bits of public affairs. And I think that's why she kept on, because she knew exactly what her son was like. If she'd have been happy with him and had confidence in him that he would be able to do and carry on in a respectable fashion according to his position in the country, she would have retired earlier. She would have quit earlier. No doubt about it. Guided him from the sidelines. And I'm not a great royalist when I say these things. Highlighter Pen is saying he's a wrong un. Kate and William are. Their little girl looked up to her nervously whilst reading hymns, and she smiled to reassure. It was a poignant sight, says Highlighter. Highlighter Pen, beg your pardon. Oh, there are good ones in there. I'd like the whole thing to be slimmed down enormously to one family, like Europe has. Oh, there's Aunt Sally. Good evening, Aunt Sally. The big churches are all apostate, controlled opposition. Again, how else can they be, Aunt Sally and everyone? At this present time, I honestly feel as though I know more about the New Testament than most of these ministers, or even that Canterbury Archbishop. He doesn't seem to know anything about the New Testament at all, what Jesus said, or is reported to have said. If I want to be slightly more accurate about it. A peasant parliament. Well, we just got a bunch of people that are in there for their own ends. Most of them. Perhaps not all. Perhaps most. And the real old alliance, of course, isn't between Scots and English. It's actually between Scotland and France. Our ties with France are much older than our ties with England. It's just they're much less known about. Trade, of course. We traded an awful lot with France at one point. Well, I suppose I better bring this to an end, or it'll go on all night. War's all going. In the Arthurian legend, it is said that Mordred kidnapped Guinevere and had her esconded at Barry Hill Fort. Funnily enough, there is a tiny cave in the side of the hill. Again, I'm no expert on that particular legend or the writings. So there you go, folks, and it's really nice to see some new faces. Well, to see new names here. That's really nice. Along with all the regular folk, which is really good. I'm calling it a night. I'm bringing on the outro music. I'm listening. You know what I'm like when I get started. And we'll see these other videos another time. So, put that over there. Go back for a minute. So there we go, folks. As always, it just flew by. It always just flies by. Well, I want to thank everyone for being here, especially all the new names that have shown up. That's nice. I hope you're subscribed, like, and share. So, as I always say, folks, adios, au revoir, cheerio, and until Thursday night, 9 o'clock, I'll see you then. Stay safe, enjoy yourself, and do what you can to resist, because that's what we are, dissidents in our own land. So go out there and diss as much as you can. Here's the music. Enjoy yourself, folks. Take care. Thanks for all of you for being.
Silently the snow falls, paints a winter scene, swiftly spreads the dark rim, hides the fading autumn green. Moonbeams brush the dark wood, conjure friendships dear to me. Lightly now the breeze flows, disturbing more than just the leaves. But life's much more than we can know. We are one small glow in the eternal flow. Patiently the love grows, lifts the weary heart. Gently now she holds me, melts two worlds once apart. Moonbeams brush the dark wood, usher dreams of you and me. Softly then the breeze blows, disturbing more than just the trees.
All together now.
But love's much more
So much more
than we can know.
than we can ever possibly know.
We are one small glow
But important glow.
in the eternal flow. Melodies of long ago, songs of innocence, harmonies to soothe the soul, past the consequence. Moonbeams brush the dark wood, awakening joys of you and me. Silently the snow falls, bringing winter symphony.
All together now.
But we're much more
So much more
than we can know.
than we can ever possibly know.
We are one small glow
A very, very important glow.
in the eternal flow. But life's much more than we can know. We are one small glow in the eternal flow.
Okay, folks, you take care, and I'll hopefully see you all on Thursday, 9 o'clock. Bye for now. Take care.